I just recall it was the most gorgeous day. The sky was bluer than I have ever seen it.
I heard the first airplane fly by and strike the towers. When I ran to the window, we saw a gaping hole, flames, smoke, debris, and we heard over the radio that a plane just flew into the Trade Center, call 911.
The sound was incredible. Even that, underground, it was extremely loud. And you got up to the street level, and you could see the fire and the glass still coming down and papers coming down from the explosion.
He gave me back the binoculars, and I looked, and I could actually see people jumping out the window. And I was like, for the life of me, I couldn't understand why anybody would be jumping out of a window.
If I close my eyes, I can literally see the plane coming and then slowly turn as you knew that it was going to strike the side of the building. It just seemed like it was frame by frame, like somebody was just doing a slow motion film. And my partner and I were just watching this, looking at it and just saying, I can't believe it. Yet there it was. It was as real as I am looking at you right now.
When the second plane hit, I was inside the building, Tower 2. I actually got blown out of the building. Big brawly guy, FBI, around, shield around his neck, came up to us and said, "We're under attack, it's terrorism." And the cops that I was working there with, we were like, okay, we're just gonna continue. It's like, we're making a choice, we're not leaving, that's our job.
Somebody yelled, "Get down." There was this tremendous rush of air, followed by this debris. I was thrown to the ground and shot across the floor about 100 feet. Fortunately, we were just outside the collapse zone. It was the last time I saw Tommy, Harry, or Mitch.
All of a sudden, you could hear the officers who were trapped in the building calling for help. And that was one of the most helpless moments I've ever experienced in my entire life, because, unless I wore a Superman suit, there was no way I was going to take off 110 stories worth of debris off of a building.
It almost looked like a tornado type of thing, It was swirling and it was just coming at us. And I just remember, running for my life. There was a woman who, in a carriage with a baby, and she was screaming, "Help me, help me!" And I remember, for years, it bothered me, like I thought maybe she died, because normally I'd help anybody.
The way I describe it that day is like a freight train. If you're standing over a subway grating, when a train goes underneath you, magnify that 5,000 times.
She had grabbed me by the shirt, had a death grip on me, wouldn't, please don't leave me. And I flat out lied to her. And I told her, I said, "Sweetheart, don't worry, I promise we're getting out of here." It was perhaps the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced in my life.
I just remember Yvonne was with me a good part of the way when we were running. He just stops. I'm looking over my shoulder and I see him, he's on the floor. And he decided at that moment to pray. I decided to run.
Moments before, there was chaos, people running, screaming. I came out and everything was gray. There wasn't a sound to be heard. There was just this deafening silence.
As we got closer and closer to the actual site, everything went from green street signs, red billboards, and everything just got gray.
I saw this lady, she was covered in blood and she looked gray, like a gray human being. And she was walking around mindless, She was in shock.
I'll never forget the look on their faces. It was like hollow souls. It was like frightening.
You would have seen cars upside down and toppled on top of each other. And it just looked like a child had played with Matchbox cars, where they may have stacked them up and knocked the pile over, except they were like real full-size cars.
They said to us, "Well, where are the patients?" And we said, "They're dead." And they're like, "Well, what do you mean?" We said, "They're dead. There is no patients. They're all gone."
Coming over the Brooklyn Bridge, you couldn't see Lower Manhattan. You were riding from the light into darkness. I made the guys grab every tool that we had, crowbars, whatever. It didn't matter what kind of a tool it was, but we'd take it with us in case we needed it, Everybody was on their hands and knees digging.
Some of us got down on the sidewalk and said a prayer. because some of us had never been in a disaster that was apparently an act of war. The devastation, the smell, the helicopters. I could still hear the sirens going off.
I'm like, what are all those beeps? And I'm like, we didn't understand. The cars were crushed. There was small fires. There was debris everywhere. And the beeps were the firemen's packs.
It was chaos, and it wasn't even organized chaos. It was lieutenants, captains walking around in a daze, firemen crying, police officers crying. It was horrible, and I still have the nightmare of the locator beacons going off. I mean, that says a lot. I mean, that's a human body below you, and you're walking on top of it.